You ever have one of those games that you vaguely remember playing when you were like 5 or some shit? You know, the kind of game that you just have the faintest memory of, and up until you see it again at some flea market or in some obscure YouTube video, you, for the life of you, can't remember what that game was called. But when you see it again, all the lights turn on in your mind and you go, holy shit, it's that game, and then you proceed to buy that game on the spot because you're too filled with the sort of strange nostalgia-induced euphoria to make any sort of reasonable judgments. Well, that game, for me, is Yoshi's Story, and in retrospect, it was a waste of $10. Partly because the game isn't very good, but mostly because my copy barely works. Or maybe it's just possessed by the devil, who knows. Yoshi's Story was released in December of 1997 for the Nintendo 64. It was originally in development for the 64 DD, the Nintendo 64's disc-based add-on, but development moved back to the base N64 and it became clear that the 64 DD was one of Nintendo's biggest fuck-ups, right next to the Wii U and that weird Super Mario Bros. Porno. The game was intended to be a follow-up to the absolutely fantastic Yoshi's Island on the Super Nintendo, so expectations were pretty high. But this added hype just made the game we got even more disappointing than it already was. If you wait a bit on the title screen, you get a synopsis of the plot. Watermelon. Apple. Banana. Grapes. Long ago, the Yoshis lived together in harmony. But then, everything changed when the Bowser attacked. Only the super happy tree, master of all 4 fruits, could stop him. But when the island needed it most, it vanished. 5 minutes passed, and a nest of eggs hatched into 6 new Yoshis. And while their egg-throwing skills are great, they have a lot to learn before they are ready to save anyone. But I believe the Yoshis can save the island. Right, so epic storyline aside, what are we actually doing in this game in terms of gameplay? Well, like its predecessor, Yoshi's Story is a side-scrolling platformer. You can jump on enemies, throw eggs at them, or eat them if you're into that sort of thing. I don't judge. The ground pound, the flutter jump, just about all of Yoshi's moves and abilities from the last game are still here intact. However, this is where the similarities stop for the most part, as unlike Yoshi's Island, there is no goal to reach at the end of the stage. Instead, you complete a stage by eating 30 fruits. It doesn't matter what kind you eat, you just need to eat 30 of them. Then the stage just ends, regardless of where you are in it. This is fine in theory, but you'll quickly realize that there's very little incentive to explore the entire level when there's more than enough fruit to clear the stage within the first third or so. Combine that with the fact that every single playthrough only has 6 stages, and this makes Yoshi's Story a very easy, very short, and very bland game, with very little to offer, especially when compared to the game that came before it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe you aren't the kind of player that enjoys just going straight from point A to point B, though. Maybe you like to explore the stages fully in hopes of finding secrets. If you do, then prepare for the game to tell you to go fuck yourself. Because secrets in Yoshi's Story, or at least secrets that are worth finding, are few and far between. Let's start with the black and white Yoshis. The first time you come across these guys, you'll probably think, huh, cool, these must be some super secret crazy characters. I bet they have super cool new abilities. No, they're just glorified one-ups. Then there are the white shy guys, which I forgot to get footage of. Huh man, do these guys like follow you around and fight enemies? Nope, just more fancy looking extra lives. Oh well then, what about the hearts? Ah, the hearts. Now these actually do something. If you collect enough of them, you can unlock extra stages to visit on subsequent playthroughs. Because, like I mentioned before, you can only go through 6 of these stages in a single run of the game. Now this would be a pretty cool reward for your curiosity, but once you start exploring is when this game's 2 biggest problems rear their ugly heads. Number 1, the controls are bad. Now before I rip this game's controls apart, I feel I should mention that these are far from the worst game controls of all time. But when compared to Yoshi's Island, past Mario titles, or hell any other first-party Nintendo platformer, the quality of Yoshi's Story's controls are inexcusable. You move at two speeds in this game. The I just shit myself but I don't want anyone else to know, so I'm just going to try to hide it by walking as slow as possible trot, and running at full speed, which is what you should be using for the most part. Your speed is controlled by how far you push the analog stick. You reach top speed almost instantaneously, and letting go of the stick causes you to stop on a dime. This can make controlling Yoshi a total nightmare, as this kind of flawless handling goes against all your basic instincts as a player. In any good platformer, the character you play as will gradually build up and lose momentum, and this helps to give them weight and make them feel more natural. When you take this away, it creates a strange disconnect between the player and the character on screen, and can make it nearly impossible to control Yoshi with the level of accuracy you would typically want. I should also point out that if your N64 controller has a worn-out joystick, which 95% do, then you really need to push hard on that thing to get Yoshi to run. Then there's your jump. Now don't quote me on this, but I swear your jump arc in this game doesn't change no matter how fast you're going. You could be at a standstill or a full sprint, doesn't matter, your jump goes the exact same distance. This again is a fine idea in theory. I mean, if your jump never changed, then it should be extremely predictable and platforming should be a breeze. But again, in practice, this idea just doesn't work because, like your awkward run, it fucks up your established perceptions about momentum. You'll constantly find yourself missing jumps because you'll either jump farther than expected, or fall short by just a few inches. Granted, you still have the flutter in case you need to correct yourself mid-jump, but even that feels about as awkward as that time that one weird kid with the neckbeard from your school got caught jerking it to hentai in the school library. Because instead of activating at the peak of your jump like in past games, it activates as you start to fall. Now, I could go on and on about every little detail about the controls in this game, and nitpick the hell out of all of them, but I think it would be better for me just to summarize my thoughts overall and move on. The controls are stiff, almost tank-like, and they don't complement the level design in any way, and this is most noticeable in just the second world of the game, which just so happens to be where my original copy died. Thus commencing the ancient ritual that has been passed down my bloodline for generations to dispose of faulty software. Hello, we are here with Joshua, and we are going to do this.
Oh, you know, fortune cookie.
This is how we ceremoniously destroy games.
No, I'm eating a fortune cookie. What are you talking about? Just.
What's your fortune?
That's a peaceful effect on physical and emotional health.
Let's.
Yeah, so, if you're a college student, you don't get this at all, so. Screw your health.
Oops, I dropped it. In spite of this, the review must go on, whether I wanted to or not, so I rushed out and bought a new copy. As it turns out, the price of Yoshi's Story has jumped from $10 to $20 in the past 5 years or so since I bought my first copy. $20 is a stupidly large amount to spend on this game. It's not like it's rare. There are enough copies of it to fill every landfill in the United States and a pair of your mom's yoga pants. Copies of it are about as common as edgy 12-year-olds with bad My Little Pony fan characters. And it's not like it's very good either, so why the $10 price jump? Price aside though, I should move on to the second factor that kills this game for me, the level design. I'm going to be blunt. This is some of the most disgustingly boring level design I've seen in any game ever. Every stage, while they each pack their own unique themes and aesthetics, do very little to feel different in terms of overall design. Just about every stage can be completed by simply walking right, or in some cases climbing straight up, and collecting all the fruit that the game just leaves out for you without providing any kind of challenge to get it, like stated previously. This is the primary thing that makes this game such a boring, repetitive slog. Again, like I stated previously. You see, it's even starting to make my writing repetitive, but then again that may just be because I suck. Regardless, this lame level design is the game's biggest issue, and it ties back into just about every other problem it contains. Why would I want to explore when the levels suck? Why would I want to unlock secret levels if the ones I'm playing already suck? Why would I want to waste my time on glorified 1-ups when these levels are already so easy that they're boring? Why would I waste my time going to the end of the stage when everything I need to beat it is in the first third? Why would I even bother playing this game when everything I do in it feels pointless and doesn't gratify me in any way? Now, I've spent most of this review tearing this game apart with a metaphorical blender. But if there is one area where I will give Yoshi's Story praise, it is the presentation. This is one of the best looking games on the N64. The way the backgrounds are made out of common household materials is a concept done so well here that it would become a staple of Yoshi games to come. The colors are vibrant, the characters animate smoothly, and the strong visuals make the stages somewhat bearable. The music is okay too. Every stage's background music is a remix of the same theme, kind of like Super Mario World. However, unlike Super Mario World, each stage has its own unique version of the theme, which helps to keep it from getting annoying while also giving the levels a feeling of cohesiveness through the soundtrack. There is one piece of music I cannot stand though, and that's the song that plays during cutscenes between levels. Just listen to this and try not to get a headache. Good graphics can't save a game though, and Yoshi's story is well beyond saving. It's boring at its best and unbearably frustrating at its worst. Not even the final boss is terribly interesting, you just throw his bombs back at him, and there's almost no way to die seeing that there's a source of infinite health in the room with you, in the form of the Super Happy Tree. But sure enough, I found a way. Remember how I said maybe I suck earlier? Well, now it's confirmed. This boss is like a metaphor for the game itself, in that it's a huge anticlimax meant to be a follow-up to its fantastic predecessor that fails to entertain on most levels. Now, I know a lot of people are probably mad at me for continuously comparing this game to Yoshi's Island, and a lot of other people are going to leave comments reminding me that this game was designed for small children and people who are new to video games. But this game was meant to be the follow-up to Yoshi's Island, arguably the greatest game on the Super Nintendo, as I've said several times. So I can't help but feel inclined to compare the two and judge Yoshi's story accordingly. And just because a game is supposed to be easy for new players doesn't mean it has to be stupidly bland in terms of design. Hell, just look at the Kirby series, a collection of games designed specifically for new players to be able to pick up and enjoy. And just about every game in that series, or at least the ones I've played, have been fantastic. There really is no excuse for this game to be this mediocre. It's mind-boggling, really. So let this review serve as a cautionary tale, a warning, so that when you see that game you haven't played for years up for sale, and that warm wash of nostalgia comes over you, you'll think twice about your purchase, because there's probably a reason you haven't played it for so long.